Alright guys, how's it going? Welcome back. Today I'm in this 2016 Citroen DS3, or as it's now called, the DS. It's the same sort of naming strategy as Gary Neville's grandparents. It's a bit strange. As of 2015, they've dropped the Citroen name and tried to make DS a brand in its own right, which is a little bit odd. It's almost like Citroen wanted to distance the DS from all the other tat that they make and sell. In fairness, the whole DS range is pretty good. I say good, I'm talking just about the styling, because underneath they're just same old Citroens. But at least the styling is attractive and adventurous. The Citroen DS3 has been around since 2010, and it is showing its age a little. I loved the styling of this car when it came out. It was quite risky and brave. It would have been very easy of Citroen just to make some retro design, a bit like the Fiat 500 or the Mini. They could have made some sort of, some like 21st century version of the 2CV, but they didn't. They made this, which was just new and modern looking. It embraces the future rather than harking back to the past. I just think as a piece of design, this DS3 looks really good. It looks far better than the dreary C3 on which this car was based. This particular late 2016 car has the facelifted front end, which looks far more modern. You can personalise the DS3s too. There are infinite combinations of different colour roofs, wing mirrors, wheels, all that sort of stuff. But I'd be very careful of that because, well, you just throw money away, to be honest, and it will affect its resale value. They do a wide range of engines in the DS3. There's a 1.4 or 1.6 litre petrol, which came from the BMW Mini, which aren't the most reliable engines. There's also a 1.6 litre diesel, which is very frugal, and also there's a 1.2 litre petrol, which is under the bonnet of this particular car. I was a little bit disappointed with it initially, but the more I drive it, the more I like it. It's quite a revvy little engine, and it's also more insurable and more affordable to run. Below 3,000 revs, it's a little bit lethargic, but between 3 and 5, it really comes to life. It's plenty nippy enough for a little city car like this. It's also quite a safe car, so if you're thinking of buying one of these cars for your son or daughter for the first car, you should sleep soundly. It scored a maximum of 5 out of 5 stars on its Euro NCAP safety rating, which was more than its rivals at the time. Which means at least when your kids hit a lamppost at 2 in the morning because they were too busy smoking and eating McDonald's and listening to Stormzy, they should survive, they should be alright. One downside with the DS3 is it was only available as a 3-door. They never sold it as a 5, which does make it slightly less practical than its 5-door rivals. Having said all that, there's more room in the back there than you might think. The boots are very good size. The interior space in general is pretty good. Although there's not much storage inside, the door pockets are quite small. The glove box is pathetic. I think Citroen have taken the name glove box a little too literal. A pair of gloves is pretty much all you'll fit in there. There's not even enough room for the owner's manual, which is just annoying because now it's got to sit in the door card. Annoyingly though, there's only one cup holder and they've positioned it way back there, which means you've got to be double jointed just to get your water out. I'm sat here at 60 miles an hour on the dual carriageway, and normally for a small city car like this, I'd be bouncing all over the place, I'd be blown from side to side. This is quite stable and quite comfortable. The seats are really thick, padded, supportive. It feels as though I'm in a much larger car. So if you did need this car to do the odd motorway journey, it's far better than any other small car I've driven recently. If you do lots of motorway journeys though, you're probably better off with the diesel, because that engine's quite torquey, so it means that to overtake something you just don't need to change gear. There's enough power there just to propel you forward. Overall the interior is quite nice, it's quite stylish, it doesn't feel cheap and nasty. The materials they've used, alright, some of it's plastic, but everything else they've tried to at least texture and make feel, a little bit more premium and upmarket. You've got quite a sporty flat bottom steering wheel, which feels quite nice to touch. They've done a good job to make what is basically just a standard Citroen a little bit more upmarket and plush. You will have some quality issues though because it's a Citroen, so over time the surface of the buttons here will rub off so you can't see which button does what. The key will break because they always do. The glove box will fall off in your hand. One of the folding mirrors won't open fully as it should. The armrest here, if you've got the optional armrest, that will break. The visors break. The engine management light will come on, that'll make a regular appearance. But fortunately, parts are quite cheap and accessible, and none of those things are too serious. They're all just niggles that you can live with. This model has this touchscreen infotainment system, which is pretty decent, but you'll soon discover that there are no buttons to control the radio. Down here you've got the volume, but there's no on or off button, which is a little bit strange. You've got a button down here with the DS logo on, but it's like that episode of Friends where they can't figure out what the light switch does. I just don't know what it does. It doesn't seem to make any difference. They have done a very good job with the seats though. They're really supportive and comfortable. For a small, cheap car, that is quite surprising. The sound deadening's pretty good. They've insulated it quite well, so you can't hear much road or wind noise, which again, on a small economy car, just makes it feel a little bit more luxurious. In terms of what it's like to drive, I didn't have high expectations for the DS3. I thought it was just going to be another dreary Citroen, but I was wrong because it's actually quite sporty and quite good fun to drive. It's not as fun and as sporty as a Mini, but then the ride's far better. But the engine's quite peppy and just wants to rev all the time. For a little 1.2 litre, it really is surprisingly quick. The steering is perfect, it's really sharp and direct and sporty. Gear change is nice and slick and crisp. I really am surprised with how this drives. It's also quite grippy. The seats do a good job of keeping you in your seat, even if you're going around the twistiest of bends. Honestly, this is one of the best handling and driving little economy cars I've driven for some time. In terms of running costs, they're very cheap to run, insure, fuel, tax. Across the board, whether you go for a petrol or a diesel. The road tax here in the UK on the diesels are completely free, so you don't pay anything at all. The petrols are still quite low. Fuel-wise, the diesels will do up to 70 miles per gallon. And the petrols are pretty good too, they're certainly not gas guzzlers. Used prices for early DS3s here in the UK start at around £2,500. Again, you're probably better off spending double that and getting a decent one with low miles and full service history. Reliability-wise, from my experience, French cars aren't the most reliable cars on the road. But parts are cheap and accessible and plentiful, so when it does break, and it will, at least it won't cost you an arm or a leg to repair. And the other thing to bear in mind, because they've been making them now for 10 years, there are plenty of them in scrapyards, so you'll be able to get used parts from there. I'm intrigued to see what the next generation DS3 will look like, because if it handles as well as this, and looks as modern and stylish, well, all the other Super Minis better watch out. So, to sum up, it's a safe, stylish little car with plenty of charm and personality. It's almost as fun to drive as a Mini Cooper S, without the horrendously hard ride. It's cheaper to repair than a Mini or an Audi A1, cheaper to buy than a Mini or Audi A1. So, yeah, it's definitely got a lot going for it. If you're in the market for a small little city car, I'd definitely check out the DS3. So thanks once again for watching. Make sure you give the video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Make sure you subscribe if you haven't done already. If you've got any comments or questions, let me know below, and I'll do my best to get back to you. You can follow me on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. I'll leave the link below. I'll also leave the link to this advert below because this belongs to my colleague. It's on his website, so if you're interested, check it out. So thanks once again for watching. I'll see you next time.